famous center of Skopje. Welcome everyone, welcome to Skopje. Skopje, the capital of North Macedonia. Welcome, new city. We are here in Macedonia Square. Macedonia Square, the famous center of Skopje, right here in front of the warrior on the horse statue. And Macedonia Square here and central Skopje in general, the result of a very interesting, very recent, and relatively controversial renovation project called Skopje 2014. And today, here in our first video from Skopje, we're gonna walk around the center here of Skopje, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about Skopje 2014 project and see why it is that this capital city and this part of the city looks the way that it does. So come along. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you want to help out the channel and help it grow, I really would appreciate it. Click on the like button down there, the subscribe button, and the little bell next to it to be notified for when new videos drop. It really helps the channel grow because it's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize this content and spread it to other YouTube viewers. If you'd like to support the channel monetarily, I would appreciate that as well. You can leave a super thanks by clicking this thanks button here and give a small donation to the channel. I appreciate your support. So back to the video, enjoy. So here the grand statue known as the warrior on the horse statue. Now there has been a bit of controversy over this statue itself within the greater controversy of the Skopje 2014 project, because it's never really been officially named of who this person on this horse is. And a lot of people think that it is supposed to be Alexander the Great, the very famous Macedonian Alexander the Great. Now, when I say Macedonian, I'm of course speaking of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, which part of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia was like here in this area. North Macedonia, for those who are not familiar or maybe aren't too good with geography, is north of Greece and east of Albania, right here on the map. And the ancient kingdom of Macedonia was right about here, the borders. And as you can see, part of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, the borders were in what is now Greece and part in what is now North Macedonia. Now, North Macedonia, as we look here at the beautiful Flamingo Casino, Skopje, and some of the other buildings here on the square, North Macedonia was only recently named North Macedonia. For a long time, this country was called some version of the Republic of Macedonia. It was a communist country as part of Yugoslavia during the Cold War era. Then after 1991 and the breakup of Yugoslavia, it became the Republic of Macedonia. And only recently, like I mentioned, renamed North Macedonia. And why was it renamed North Macedonia? Well, for many years since the breakup of Yugoslavia, there was a dispute between Greece and North Macedonia over the name of Macedonia. The Greeks claimed it as theirs, the Macedonians claimed it as theirs, and as you can see again from the map, both were kind of right. Now, in Greece, there is a section of Greece, this section right here, that is called Macedonia. It's Greek Macedonia. And for a long time, the name just sort of, like Greece sort of just let the name exist here for the Republic of Macedonia? Because they really had no leverage to make the Macedonians change the name of the country until Macedonia, the Republic of Macedonia, wanted to become part of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, of which Greece is already a part. And that gave them the leverage, Greece, to be able to demand that the Republic of Macedonia change the name and no longer use Macedonia as the name. And after a series of back and forth over several years, eventually in the very end of 2018, the name was changed here to North Macedonia. So if you've looked at a map before 2018, you would have seen Macedonia right here. If you look at a map now, you will see North Macedonia. And it's still a little bit contentious among the Macedonians here. You've noticed in this video so far, I have referred to the name of the country as North Macedonia, because that is the official name of the country, but I've referred to its people as Macedonians. And that is something that I've learned is quite offensive, actually, to people who live here, to Macedonians, to refer to them as North Macedonians. Very offensive. It's the only time you're going to hear me say that in this video. Here we are crossing the stone bridge. This is one of the older bridges here in Skopje. There are other bridges, one specifically that we're going to come back across over there that is known as the Art Bridge. But what does this have to do with the controversial project of Skopje 2014, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video? Well, the naming dispute, it sort of sets the stage here for the rise of a nationalist political party known as the VMRO-DPMNE. To make things easier for this video, we are simply going to refer to them as the Nationalist Party. And the Nationalist Party was in power in 2014 during the and earlier also in like 2010 when the project was originally announced. And the reason for the project, there were two reasons given. One, to make the center part of the city more earthquake proof. There was actually a very serious, very large and devastating earthquake here in Skopje in 1963. And as we're walking here towards the old town, old part of the city, a lot of buildings that were like much older classical design buildings were destroyed in that earthquake. And so one of the reasons for the Skopje 2014 project was to make the central part of the city more earthquake safe, but it was also to essentially try to restore the classical grandeur of the city, to make it look very, very grand. And as you can see over here from the building, which is the, I believe, Museum of Archaeology, Skopje, they really went for it. And we look back onto Macedonia Square, the huge statue of the statue of the warrior on a horse, and above on the mountain back there, which is Mount Vodno, there's a huge cross, that big iron cross. That was also part of the project. That's known as the Millennium Cross. And the project was basically a completely government-sponsored project. Now, this is kind of similar as far as the kind of wild architectural style of the city. Reminds me a lot of Batumi in Georgia, where we visited. And we made a video about the crazy architecture of Batumi, link in the description. But of course, that architecture, a lot of it is private. It's private developers that were given, that basically like purchased land and made these pretty crazy buildings in Batumi, a city that was really growing, and there was a lot of land available to build on. Now here is very different. We're talking the very center of the city. It's not like this is just like empty land that a developer can come and scoop up and build a huge building on. These is all buildings that already existed here, or buildings that were completely built from scratch, but they were built in this like neoclassical style to look like ancient Greek or ancient Macedonian buildings, these styles with these like columns. And in addition to that, tons of statues all over the place of like famous Macedonian historical figures. And the reason, or one of the reasons why the project is so controversial is because North Macedonia is not the wealthiest of countries in Europe. They have at the time, especially in 2014, they had significant unemployment, high poverty levels, and there was a lot of controversy around the fact that the government was spending a lot of money, by some estimates upwards of a total of $700 million, to make this huge renovation in the center of the city, when they could have been spending that money on, like public works projects that would help people, better transportation, roads, schools, etc., etc. Now, I'm not going to comment on my opinion on the controversy, which side you fall on, but I will just say people here in Macedonia have very strong opinions on it. Some people do. And I'll read it. I'll actually let voiceover Gary read this quote here so that I make sure that I get it complete.
There's a quote here in a BBC article from 2014. The quote from Miroslav Girsev, professor of urban design at St. Cyril and Methodist University of Skopje, who is also the designer of the current Macedonian flag. He says, "This is a crime against public space, culture, urbanism, and art, against the city and the citizen." He says that, "I stopped going to the center of the city when I have to go past those monstrous criminal colonnades and things which are not sculpture. I walk with my head down, my eyes to my shoes, the walk of a dead man." Very strong opinions of the project, the Skopje 2014 project. Now, one of the things that Skopje 2014 has actually done is it had a lot of interest around the world when it was happening in 2014, and it has made Skopje more of a tourist destination than it used to be. This was not a very big tourist destination for Europe, and it still is not like one of the most popular tourist destinations, but there is like a certain curiosity, I think, about the Skopje 2014 project and coming to see these kind of crazy buildings that they've built here, like the museum here that we're walking past, the archaeology museum, and the giant warrior on the horse statue, and some of the other buildings. Now, some of these buildings you can see around here, like for example, right there across the bridge, you see the top of a very brutalist 1950s, 1960s era building, and that is the main post office building. It's one of the only like brutalist architecture still present here in the city, or like in the center of Skopje. And before all of this project 2014, Skopje 2014 project happened, a lot of the buildings here in the center part, they looked kind of like that. They were very like brutalist, right out of the 1960s and 70s architecture, because of when they were built, right after, in the wake of the devastating earthquake. The earthquake damaged or destroyed like 80% of the city, and a lot of the buildings here were rebuilt in the style of the time, which was like that very concrete, modernist, brutalist style. And say what you will about that, some people like it, some people don't. The goal of the Skopje 2014 project was really to completely redesign the center so that it did not look like that. It did not look like a very brutalist style, and it had this, very bold neoclassical style. This bridge here, the Art Bridge, as it is known, was built and made with all of these statues. You can see actually the statues go all the way down there from the stone bridge and all the way down from here past the front of the museum and down to the other bridge that's over there, and all the way across the art bridge here as well. These are, I think, copper. I think these statues are all made of copper, and they're all depicting famous figures from Macedonian history. And now, interestingly, one of the things I mentioned was the party that put this all into motion. The Skopje 2014 project was like a nationalist party, and one of the ways the project has been referred to is antiquization, which basically is trying to connect the Kingdom of Macedonia from thousands of years ago, all of that history, through all the years to the current country of North Macedonia, the former Republic of Macedonia, to try and connect that history and make it as if it were one continuous line of history. And it's very controversial amongst historians. Some here in North Macedonia, and especially others in the section of Macedonia in Greece, the Greek Macedonia. And because the Kingdom of Macedonia, like we saw on the map, overlaps geographically both regions, it's a very controversial thing, as far as historiography, to say that there's this continuous history that can be traced all the way back from there, this lineage all the way from the Kingdom of Macedonia all the way up to the current Republic of North Macedonia. But that said, I will say this for the project, as we look at the museum over here and some of the other buildings over there on the other side of the bridge, I will say they definitely went for it with this project. This is something that I said in the Batumi video, something that I kind of actually appreciated about some of the crazy architecture in Batumi, even though some people are not too fond of that either. They went for it. They had a vision and they went for it for sure here. And did it cost a lot of money? Yes, it cost hundreds of millions of dollars or euros. It cost a lot of money to get done, but it is done, and what's done is done. And now the nationalist party has accomplished really what their goal was, which was to really put their stamp on the capital city of Skopje here. And I don't really see Skopje's image changing too much in the future. This is, for better or for worse, this is what Skopje is going to be known for. Skopje is going to be known for this this crazy project, this very, very grand architectural renovation. And as you can see out here, there are tours, there are people taking pictures of all the statues. There is, of course, an idiot American walking around talking to himself like an idiot, filming all of this stuff. And really, I don't know that this would be happening if this project had never taken place. So, I think I'd like to walk just to a few other places. I want to walk over to the post office building to show off the brutalist style. It is actually quite a cool building. And see a few other things here in central Skopje. And then that'll do it for this video, because we're going to be here for a little while. We're going to see a lot of other stuff, really cool stuff here in Skopje. It's not just the center here. There's other stuff to do in Skopje, other stuff to see, interesting stuff, and we're going to be seeing that stuff. But first, let's check out a few more of the iconic landmarks here in central Skopje. Here, as we walk away from the central square, Macedonia Square behind me, we're walking towards the Macedonian Arch here at the end of this walkway here, at the edge of like the central square of Macedonia. That is the Macedonian Arch. It also part of the Skopje 2014 project, designed in the style of like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and many other like famous arches like that were all designed in that style. Skopje has their own here, the Macedonian Arch. All right, from right here in the center of this very busy intersection, it's quite noisy with all the traffic going by, but from this spot right here, literally like in basically a crosswalk of this major intersection here in Skopje, you can see some really interesting buildings. This one right here, the one that we saw from far away, the main post office. It's one of the only like remaining brutalist style buildings, very concrete, very 1960s, 70s era building. And it has been maintained here while all the other buildings around here were rebuilt in that neoclassical style. So it's a very, very interesting looking building. It's kind of cool that it remains. Of brutalist style buildings, this is one of the really wacky looking ones. Speaking of wacky looking, right there across the intersection, right there are two buildings built in the very sort of bold neoclassical style with all the columns. And those two buildings, you would think, wow, what are those? What are those two buildings that they have, made look so fancy in this style? Well, those are actually utility offices. The one on the left is the office of like the electricity utility for Skopje, and the one on the right is the water and sewage office. So, like I said, a lot of the buildings that were rebuilt in this style were government buildings, and there are two right there. Behind them, up there on the hill, is the Kale, or the Skopje Fortress. And that actually is the site of a very old, like 6th century fortress that was built during the Byzantine Empire and then destroyed and then rebuilt and destroyed and rebuilt several times over the course of, like hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years really. The building as it is now was reconstructed, largely the outer wall reconstructed during the Skopje 2014 project. So a lot of the construction that's up there is new. We're actually going to go and visit that building because it's a very interesting story. We'll do that in another video. And over here, you can see across the intersection this other building there in the very fancy neoclassical style. That there is the like central governmental building for North Macedonia here in the capital of Skopje. Very, very cool. In fact, I want to walk over and check out that building a little more closely. Here it is here from directly across the street, the main governmental building of North Macedonia here in the capital of Skopje. And it's a wild building. I mean, just like all the other buildings that we've seen, the Museum of Archaeology and the two utility buildings, and even the old brutalist building, the main post office. This is a wild building. And the entire like Skopje 2014 redesign, it has made some truly wild looking buildings. And like I said, pretty controversial depending on whether you like the aesthetic of the redesign or you don't. You like how much money they spent on the redesign, or you don't like how much money they spent on the redesign, but regardless, it definitely left its stamp on the center of the capital city of Skopje here. Now, to mention, the rest of Skopje, like, it's not like this. This is something we mentioned in the Batumi architecture video as well. There's some wild looking stuff in both cities, but it is not really indicative of what the rest of the city looks like. In fact, here in Skopje, the large majority of the rest of the city is just very normal. It's a very normal city. There's a lot of very normal looking neighborhoods. And I'm excited to explore other parts of Skopje as well, not just down here in like Macedonia Square in the center. We will be doing some other stuff here in the center because there is some other interesting stuff to see. But we'll be exploring other parts of Skopje as well. So I think that's going to do it for this video. Just a little introduction and a little nod to what Skopje has become more recently very famous for, the Skopje 2014 renovation project. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned, there's going to be plenty more coming from here in Skopje, and we'll see you in the next one.